welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with life coaches Dean McMurray and Monique Scott, and this is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Just a little sadness. We mentioned it yesterday, but Linda Armstrong has decided to move on to do other things with her life, and while we're going to miss her, obviously we really appreciated the couple of years that she's been on the podcast, and she's been a main player here for quite some time. So she'll be missed. Don't know yet what's happening with Rita. She hasn't ruled out coming back, so Rita may actually be back on Fridays. But what I can tell you is we do have a new co-host that will start next week. She's actually somebody who was on the podcast last fall. You may remember her. Her name is Debbie Garcia. And guys, I got to tell you, Debbie is a powerhouse. She's like, it's like I said to Dan Mangana yesterday. She is a huge power in a small body. I mean, just like boom, she just kind of takes over energy wise, and it's going to be a really nice energy boost for the show. So kind of looking forward to that. But you guys were really nice. You guys stepped up to the plate and kind of filled in the gap this week, and I wanted to thank both of you. And it's kind of a good opportunity to have you guys meet each other. So Monique, meet Dean. Dean, meet Monique. Hi, guys.
Nice
How you doing?
to meet you, Monique.
Hello.
Yes.
Y'all looking good. And of course, you guys have
I showered today, so we're good.
Oh, well,
Not
thank
that you would
so
notice
much.
anyways.
So there's no virtual stink going on. I'm glad to hear
there's
that.
no
Yeah.
virtual
Good. Yeah, we like to maintain standards around here. So
hygiene.
That's right. But no, that's actually not what I was going to refer to. What I was going to refer to is, besides being life coaches, you guys have something else in common. You both have a military background.
Oh,
Yeah, we do.
cool. Yes.
How long were you, how long were you in, Monique?
12 years.
12 years. And Dean, you were in for
24, yep.
24 years.
Ooh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Double
so-
me.
Double you.
There's no competition. It's all right. But and what branch, Monique, were you?
I started out in the Army National Guard, and then from there I went active duty Army, and then from there I went AGR Army, and from there I went AGR Air Force. And Walt and you listeners, just in case you're not familiar with AGR, the easiest way I like to explain it is when you have active duty military, whatever branch, usually you sign up for 4 or 6 years. I don't know what it is now, but generally 4 years. And maybe you spend a year or two at one station, then they send you somewhere else, right? And that's federal. But when you are AGR, that's called Active Guard and Reserve. So if you have a National Guard or a Reserve unit in your hometown, I like to explain it. Somebody has to run the place Monday through Friday. And so they're active duty at a National Guard or Reserve, and you are paid by the state. But we still get the same wonderful military benefits as federal.
Okay.
And it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You can be stationed in your hometown, never have to leave, and still have the benefits of active duty military.
So you're the one who turns the lights on and then turns the lights off.
Yes, and when they come for their one weekend out of the month, I'm there too. So that's usually a 7-day week.
Well, that's very interesting because I did it a little bit different. I did 14 years active duty Army, and the last 10 I spent as a AGR Army here in the state of North Dakota. So we have a lot in common. Yes, I'm familiar with that. Yep. Yeah. So good times. It's actually a little secret. When I learned about it, I was like, whoa, nobody said anything about this unicorn. What's going on over here?
Yeah, they don't tell you that. It is like the best kept secret in the
It is. Yes, it is. But no, good times. It was a lot of great individuals. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Uncle Sam was really good to me. I don't know. I only say I wouldn't want to do it over again because if I know what I know now, I probably never would have gone to the military. But I have no negative experiences. It was good for me for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to concur as well. So.
Well, I was never in the military, but I do have something else in common because you made reference to Uncle Sam. I'm actually descended from Uncle Sam.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, there is a man for whom the character Uncle Sam was created. His name was Sam Wilson, and he was a meat inspector in Troy, New York, around the turn of the 20th century, and he was my great great uncle. So I am literally a real life nephew of my Uncle Sam.
Wow. And I actually had an uncle named Sam.
Yeah.
So.
Now I kind of want to go and research. I'm kind of a nerd like that, Walt. So now I kind of want to go and research the people who are behind these iconic figures. Like Uncle Sam, or the lady that you see with the,
right, Rosie the Riveter.
Rosie the Riveter. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So I'd like to know.
By the way, do you know why he's called Uncle Sam?
No.
Because it's like it's like the all of a sudden all my words are leaving me. Excuse me while I just kind of recollect them here. Crazy. No, he's called Uncle Sam because, like I said, he's a meat inspector. He was a meat inspector, and meat inspectors at that time had a stamp that they would stamp on the packages of meat they were inspecting. And he was a U.S. meat inspector, so he would stamp it with U.S. And somebody would make the joke, well, what does that mean? Oh, well, that means that's Uncle Sam's mark because his name was Sam Wilson. So that's where Uncle Sam comes from. Sam.
Yeah, wow.
Sure. Yeah. So a little arcana that does you absolutely no good at all, but it's kind of fun.
Right. Thanks.
So the U.S. on all the equipment, or
it's all him.
Like, oh, there's Uncle Sam. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. He has the trademark.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
I don't really have a particular topic in mind today. I just figured this is more like get together and share some ideas and so forth.
Absolutely.
So I think maybe I'll just kind of bring out a few things that I've picked up from each one of you and toss them back and forth and let you guys banter a little bit. And I'll just sit back and enjoy,
Sure.
But I mean, well, for instance, now, Dean, you bill yourself as the military medium. And in fact, here on Fridays, you actually first joined us on a Friday show when Rita Giganti was on. And I was telling Monique about that before the show, how it was kind of fun because she's a psychic and you're a psychic medium. And the two of you were like, double teaming on people who were asking for help with stuff, which was really interesting because you filled out each other's stuff. You would say one thing and she'd fill it out some more. And then Linda would jump in with her stuff and so forth. So that was kind of cool. But when you were in the military, I remember asking you about this. You didn't broadcast the fact that you had this. You only discovered that, I guess, in the last few years that you were actually in the service. And then you just kind of transitioned a little bit. And for obvious reasons. I mean, I think everybody has a pretty good idea of, what soldiers are like. And there's going to be some resistance. And so you're going to want to keep that kind of thing quiet. I can understand that a bit. But you decided to kind of come out at one point, so to speak. I think that was the phrase that you used. And I'm going to juxtapose that with Monique's background because Monique was brought up in the religious setting of the Baptist church. So she kind of came from a background that the military wouldn't frown on. She wouldn't get in trouble about that. But it traditionally would have been resistant. Baptist churches, I think we can say, would be resistant to the idea of a psychic medium. So I'm thinking the two of you here, this is kind of like coming in from two different angles here, which I'm sure you guys aren't bothered by, but I just thought I'd bring that in because it's kind of a fun angle. So let me start by asking you this. Give us a little bit of a replay, Dean, about those last couple of years and that transition that you made, and then I'm going to ask a follow-up question based on that.
Well, they're really a blur, Walt, because I stayed drunk the whole lot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, I actually wasn't drinking, which is interesting. Maybe I should have. I don't know.
What was wrong with you?
I don't know.
Sometimes the military can drive
right, yeah. It's like normally the military is making you do the vice versa. You summed it up well, Walt. Really, when I returned from my last deployment, I was in my last 3 years. The active guard component has what they call a high 3. And what that means in technical terms is you can retire at your highest grade that you held for the last 3 years of your service. And at that time, when right before I deployed I got promoted to E7 and Sergeant First Class. And so I was in my last 3 years of military service. I got back. I knew that, hey, I'm time's ticking down. And, I was just kind of like, it's time for me to retire. And that's when everything kicked off for me spiritually. it really threw my whole world into a tailspin. But at the same time, I was, I still have all this time, really, 2 to 3 years is still not a huge chunk of time, but, I didn't want to be that guy, of saying that, I didn't want to lose people's trust and the respect that I, through the years earned, from my superiors and the folks that I supervised and everything else. And so I really kept it quiet and until, in the really remaining probably 6-8 months or that last year. And I just became what I call the grumpy old guy, and I didn't care anymore. And because really what I feel is the true sense of who I was, I couldn't hide from even myself anymore. And that was more what it was. I was embracing who I was at a deeper level. And like Walt said, when I always love to say that when I came out of the spiritual closet, so to speak, and shared with people, and what I found, because it was more of a perception that I thought that people in the military, are very, because that's what you see. Yeah. And if you spent any time in the military, and Monique can probably attest to this, is that it's very, in box, right? Very staunch. And, but what I learned was people are people. And when I came out as, hey, I'm a psychic medium, there was people like, oh my God, I totally believe in mediums. Or there's the other people that were like, so what, what's a medium? And they weren't too sure, but they were kind of curious. And there were the other people that would, like, hey, I'll pray for you and like, I'll, light a candle in your name and all this great stuff. And then there was other people that would turned right around and they left, like my office or wherever I was at, because they didn't even want to have the conversation. And, and because a lot of people literally thought it was BS, and that's okay. But what I learned really was the perception that I had of people in the military was completely really false, because it doesn't matter your occupation. People are people. It doesn't matter if you're digging a ditch or if you're protecting the country. It's, some people believe in that stuff. Some people don't, and that's okay. Some people have very, devout religious beliefs. Some don't, and that's okay, regardless of where you're at. And, and that was my understanding. And, but there was some, and did I really incorporate any of that into I tried to keep it separate. And, I tried to keep both halves of my life separate for so long. It was so exhausting, let me tell you. And then it wasn't, really it was about, once I started embracing who I was, I didn't really care. And then, it was actually, I allowed it to, because I wanted to use it more at work. Cause I was like, well, if this is who I am, why can't I use it at work? That's where I started getting a little edgy, what I call edgy with it, and saying, why can't I use it? Like, I started thinking, well, what about seeing if, maybe some of the soldiers are having maybe emotional issues or other stuff going on at home, because, guard soldiers, they have a life beyond the 2 weeks a year, 1 week in a month type deal. And there's, there was a lot of times where when I started stepping into my abilities to pick up on, perceive on stuff where, it really helped me help soldiers, and where I would have deeper conversations with individuals saying, how's everything going? Like, and, come to find out somebody's actually homeless. Like, there was a female soldier that was homeless, and she just had a new baby and, couldn't even afford to get diapers. And it's like, okay, there's a starting point. Let's get you help. Let's get you and your daughter help. Let's, and then I started realizing, I was like, well, this is an asset. Why would I keep that from, helping other people in a certain way? So if I can perceive things like something's off with them, what's going on? And not that I need to know everything, maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's whatever, but, you can just ask questions, if they're forthcoming or not, but,
Sure.
so yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell. And then, that's been 10 years ago, 10 or so years ago. And it's been, coming up in May will be 8 years since I retired.
Okay.
So it seems like eons, right? Time goes so quickly. And, I always like to say like the movie and the book, we were soldiers once and young. And, it's like, ooh, now I feel old. My back is creaking and, it's like, so, but yeah, I guess in a nutshell that, kind of.
You're only as old as you feel. You realize that.
I know that. Yeah, I know. Some days I'm like, damn it, So, but, trying to change the narrative, obviously, but yeah, and really I think what it turned out to be was more about truly embracing who I was and, re-understanding, coming to terms with what I thought was truth, what I was brought up with in a traditional religious household. And then when I came, my experience and what I learned as a child, maybe it came in conflict and, in a spiritual aspect. What does that mean? And so there was a lot of self-journey and there was a lot of self-discovery and come to terms with Dean. But, and I don't know about Monique. I don't, why don't, Monique, you want to share your story?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I've only been in or had my spiritual awakening since 2016. And Walt, I don't think I ever shared this with you. I'm pretty sure I didn't because I don't share this story with a lot of people. And Dean, with you being a psychic medium, I don't know if this will resonate with you or you will know exactly what I'm talking about. But if I'm not mistaken, what I experienced back in 2016 without knowing anything, was that 2016? Wait a minute. 2017. We're in 2021, right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, this was 2017.
Okay.
So what I believe I experienced was astral projection.
Ooh.
But at the time, I had never even heard of it. I didn't know what it was. And seriously, you guys, it happened to me on a Monday morning on my sofa. I had broken up with a boyfriend and I was distraught. I wanted us to get back together. I had decided I was going to manifest him back.
Ah.
And I wondered if it was really real to be able to connect with someone mentally, like hear other people's thoughts and think. I'd heard of that, but I didn't know if that was really real. So I remember sitting on the couch and just saying, God, if this is really real, please tell him how much I love him. Tell him how much I miss him. I want us to get back together. And then I found some random, meditation for an hour on YouTube that I did. And you guys blew my mind. First of all, I didn't even know, I'd never had an experience like that before. I'd never done hypnosis or meditation or anything, but quickly, like I just listened, right? And I remember her like kind of counting me down. And the next thing I remember after the experience was her saying, counting us back out.
Wow.
I didn't even realize an hour had passed, but in that hour, I had an astral projection experience. But again, I didn't know what it was. And I literally took a week off from work. Literally, I took a week off from work. I was so messed up. I sat on the couch for a week and I cried because I couldn't understand what happened. And it involved my ex-boyfriend.
Oh my.
It was he and I together and so anyway, that kind of started the ball rolling, Dean, for my real, spiritual awakening, right? Sure. Prior to that, in 2016, the same boyfriend or ex-boyfriend I'm talking about now, he introduced me to the law of attraction, but I was just dabbling. I had manifested like a new car, a 700 credit score,
Wow.
a luxury apartment, so I was manifesting some pretty big things to say I didn't know a lot, but that's about it. My real spiritual awakening came in 2018 with that. And I was like, wow, the power of the mind is amazing. And then just a year and a half ago, I became a manifestation and mindset coach. So I didn't have any experiences while I was in the military, right? I wasn't even aware. However, things, I don't know if this is true for you, Dean or Walt, but things that have always just, like my mom and my family would call me lucky because everything I wanted, I would get, no matter what it was, right? Things just seemed to come to me effortlessly. Jobs that I wanted, I would get, right? Whether or not I was really qualified for them or not. I mean, just this crazy stuff, right? Just crazy stuff. But again, I was exercising the law of attraction. And, at some point we could talk about this too, but now I realize a lot of it had to do with my energy, my vibration. While Dean, you're just meeting me, but I'm pretty much a naturally happy, upbeat kind of person. I love everybody.
This is an understatement, Dean. She's actually playing it down.
Is she? Are you don't tone it down for me, Monique. Just be your normally vibrant self.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much been my experience. Like Walt said, I grew up in the Baptist church. They certainly didn't talk about psychics or mediums or the most you speak in tongues and you fall out on the floor, right? That's about the extent of your spiritual, right, experience. So that's where I came from.
Wow.
What was the astral projection thing kind of a thing to kick you into gear to go into coaching? Because it seems to be one led to the other. No, just not connected. That's interesting.
After it happened, I absolutely wanted nothing to do.
Oh, okay.
When I tell you I was scared essless, I told you, I took a week off from work and I cried on my couch because I couldn't understand what happened and I couldn't find anybody to tell me or try to explain to me. I was searching on YouTube videos, but because I didn't know what to call it, I didn't know what to look for. So I couldn't, it scared me. Man, it's like literally to be in space, to see the earth, to see, I don't know, what do you call them? Galaxies or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, it's still, as you can tell just now, still just like, what the heck? And I've never tried to do it. Well, I didn't try to do it then, but I've definitely not wanted to do it since, to be honest with you. It just scared me.
So I think you partly answered the question I was going to ask, which was, when did you come to terms with it? It sounds like you're still coming to terms with it.
I don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
But it probably would be better, Walt, and Dean, if I met someone or even afterwards, even to this day, if I actually had a conversation with someone who's extremely familiar with those types of experiences to kind of help me process and understand what happened. Because again, I wasn't trying to do it. I just thought I was just trying to connect with my boyfriend on a mental level to say, hey, take me back. Can we please get back together? I miss you. Kind of thing. That's all I was trying to do.
Then I can offer an official invitation to you because both of my Monday co-hosts are very experienced with astral projections.
Really?
Personally, yes. Both Amy Blackford and Louis D'Souza have a lot of experiences with out-of-body experiences. And they're very enthusiastic discussions of it.
All right. So maybe I'll call on Monday.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, connecting on the Monday show. We'll get you guys talking.
There's certainly powerful experience. I mean, I don't have a ton of experiences of out-of-body experiences, but remote viewing and some astral projection, absolutely. Those are just completely, I don't know if shifting your maybe complete mindset or just, kind of blows your mind a little bit. It's just like, what just happened? What was that?
Yeah, Dean, I would love to. If it's okay, Walt, I would love to hear about, Dean, your very first remote viewing. Like, were you trying to do it? How did you learn how to do it?
So the very first remote viewing, yeah, I wasn't trying to do it. What it was is, I was washing dishes actually. And this is after I had kind of embraced, my abilities as a medium. And it was kind of within that first year, right? And I was, Dean the soldier by day and Dean the medium by night. Sounds like my alter ego comic. And, so if anybody from Marvel or, anybody listening, just kidding.
But what's your superpower? That's the question you have to answer for them.
Well, it's the psychic superpower, right?
Okay. All right.
But no, I was washing dishes and my wife, I knew, was going to this, I don't even remember what it was. It was like a spiritual development class or something, right? And, I knew that there was going to be certain people there, but, and I didn't give it any thought. And I was with my daughter and my kids, and I was washing dishes, and all of a sudden it was like a split second. It wasn't minutes, but it felt longer, that I had this crystal clear vision of my wife talking to a friend of ours. She's a psychic. I actually, in my development phase of mediumship, I always referred to her as the voodoo chick in all my stories. But I clearly saw her talking to my wife, like I was hovering above them. And all I heard was, yeah, he should do that. And then it was out, and then it was out. And I was like, whoa. And I saw what everybody was wearing. Obviously, I knew what my wife was wearing before she left the house. And so she come home, and I go, and I didn't forget, right? That's another one. So my wife gets home hours later, and I said, hey, was so-and-so there? The voodoo chick. And she was like, yeah, she was there. And I said, was she wearing a red turtleneck? And she was like, yeah, she was wearing a red turtleneck. Like, where are you going with this? And now you're starting to freak me out.
Right.
And then I said, you're not going to believe this, but I totally saw you two having a conversation, and I heard you were talking about me, and she said he should totally do that. And she was like, holy shit. She was like, we had that conversation. And then she goes on to whatever, I don't know if it was a class or whatever we were, that I was supposed to take, or so, I don't know what it was. And I was like, holy crap, what was that? Like, it was so clear. And then I was like, it was like a random, like somebody was playing with wires, right? And it was like, ooh, there's one connected. And it was just like a glitch in the matrix. And I saw this crystal clear vision. And while I was doing something completely random, the other time was, where I was actually, when I started getting into meditation, and this was further in my spiritual, I guess, journey. Mm-hmm. And I was really into meditation. And one day I was actually sitting in my lazy boy in our house at the time. And I started feeling waves of energy come over me, like crashing. And it was really nice sensation. And so as I breathe in deep, all this energy would just wash over me, and it felt really good. And I was like, well, I just keep on doing this because it feels good. And and I wasn't hyperventilating. I know there's somebody's like, oh my God, he's going to hyperventilate. No. And it was just very gentle. And all of a sudden, like, boom, I was sitting obviously physically sitting in my living room, but all of this because I'm conscious and awake and my eyes open. I could see like I was actually, I don't know, teleported. I don't know what you want to call it, but I was somewhere else in time, and I was in a parlor, back, if you will, the 1700s, whatever. And I knew that I was physically sitting in my home, because I could feel the texture of the lazy boy chair.
Mm-hmm.
But everywhere I look, so if you look around you right now, you see your laptop and other things. I was seeing like, and I was reaching out and touching them like, and I was like, I'm here, but I'm there. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, I'm sitting in a parlor and there's a teacup and there's, a teapot. And I'm like, and then I was like, and I was looking, then I saw myself and I was like, I'm sitting, in a suit and tails and very nicely dressed. And then I heard, somebody use the word dapper. And I was like, okay. And then I saw somebody else like with a stovetop hat and very Lincolnish, what I would say, right? In Dean's words. And so that era. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And the wallpaper and everything. And it was just all this. And then all of a sudden I was back and I was like, holy shit, what's going on? What's that? And so I found it so fascinating. It was like I wasn't trying to do anything. Right. It was just, and so over time I was really fascinated. Like, I'm going to go there. It's like the kid with the ride. Like, where's your button? Like,
that was the complete opposite.
Yeah. And I was like, I want to push it again. Like, that was cool. And cause it wasn't scary for me, my experience. And so it wasn't until that I started taking more meditation courses. There was a Discovering Your Light Body course, inner core power, where I had some pretty powerful meditative experiences and out of body stuff that I started. Somebody said, well, if you just want to do remote viewing, then you just do it. And I was like, cause I started reading, of course, all the CIA, experiments and, Stargate and all these different stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, now I got a headache because now I'm thinking back to manuals. Of course, there are actual manuals on how, and I'm like, no. I left that when I retired. And I was like, and it's boring me, number one. But number two, there was something in me saying that it needed to be easy.
Right.
But I didn't get that. I was like, oh, but you should have to do this. And, you need to dance on one foot. And, that's what I was thinking in my head. It needs, the old adage of nothing, nothing comes without hard work or whatever. Right.
Right.
But it was more of a mindset. And basically it was like, well, let me try it. But I needed something that I could validate, like a target or somebody could validate. And so I kind of I can't even remember what it was. I think it was, for a friend or something, and where basically, got permission on to check, and so then I could validate with them, and they were like, dude, yeah, that's, and I gave a description of what was going on, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, well, that wasn't as hard as what I thought, and I was like, hey, I want to go here. And that's where I went. And so now as I got into remote viewing, there was a kind of fast forwarding in time. And I don't even have it in here. It's in my office here, but I have a friend who is an artist and also has been, I don't know, an intuitive, psychic, animal communicator of many, many years. Mm-hmm. And she made basically it's a raven out of multi-textured, material. And it just spoke to me. I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And she goes, so weird. I thought about you the whole time while I was making this.
Wow.
And she said, I think it's yours. And so she gave it to me.
Oh.
And what it turned out to be was one of my spirit guides or a spirit animal for me. And it was more of a guide, for remote viewing. And I was like, okay, so what's your name? And I kept on hearing T21E. And I was like, very cool, so I had it framed. I was like, well, you're going on the wall, dude. I'm going to put you in the office. And so now what is so funny, Monique, is, now my wife will bug me. She was like, when's the last time you talked to your birds? she'll give me more of a hard time because not only do I, connect to T21E for the remote viewing or like saying, hey, let's go forward in time. Like, what do I need to be doing or whatever, or helping clients, but also like the whole yard will fill up full of crows and ravens. And it's like the, Night of the Living Dead almost. It's crazy. It kind of gets kind of eerie. It's like, and I get it in the spring, they show up, the fall, but it's crazy. And they'll just be so loud. And she's like, would you go downstairs and talk to your birds? And I'm like, come on, I'm not Dr. Doolittle here, but yeah, so that's kind of the crazy journey of remote viewing for me. And then, so what I've done is there was a time where, for a time I volunteered with a nonprofit organization called, Find Me. Mm-hmm. And Find Me, again, is a nonprofit organization that, works with psychics and mediums and viewers and other folks all around the world on homicide and missing persons cases. And basically where all those people feed one centralized individual all this information and hopes that they find, like, they work missing children, missing, adults, kids, human trafficking, homicide. Hey, last seen at this Quick Mart in Columbus, Georgia, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. And, did some of that, people have hired me privately to, saying, hey, I want you to check in on my company, Fortune 500 business owners saying I think there's something going on within my business. Something doesn't feel right. And where, there was a company that, the formulators that worked with the FDA formula was messing with, they weren't following the formula they were supposed to. They were messing with it. And they had to pull all the product off the shelf because they said, your scientist or whomever, the dude isn't doing what he's supposed to do. And so I did some spying on that. So corporate spying, or if you will, spying, I don't know. People like that word, but corporate viewing, and then also like some government stuff. Some people were worried about. And so, yeah, it kind of gets down that rabbit hole of, different, like some weird, like bunker stuff. And it was like, ooh, I don't know what this is all about, but
now you're freaking out all the hackers in the world.
I know.
They think they have their tracks covered. They know how to cover all the digital footprints, but they haven't figured out how to cover the psychic footprint, and that's freaking them out.
Hey, you want to read a crazy book? A great book is called "Do You See What I See?" I think it's called, and it talks about. It was written by one of the guys that was a remote viewer for the military or CIA or something, but talks about basically spy on spy doing
Mad Magazine,
right? It sounds like it, right?
It does.
Talking about how they would so if I showed up and say I was remote viewing, like a government facility or whatever, because I felt that they were looking into my company. And then all of a sudden I felt another presence, like they were counter spying, and so it gets kind of into the weeds. And I know it sounds kind of like doo 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 doo, but it's crazy because when I did the one case where the one lady wanted, because she felt that the government was, getting in her business, as far as viewing, I heard a voice saying, you have to leave now. And then I was gone. It was like, I didn't make the effort to leave. I was just gone. And I was like, okay, no, I'm not there no more. And it was crazy. Now it wasn't like but it was like almost like a guide or something. I was like, you need to, we need to go now. So it was like, but I was like, I felt like almost like, hey, you could almost be caught, so to speak. And it was crazy. So there's a lot but when you think about it, could you be spying? Sure, you could be.
Yeah.
Well, you're reminding me of a very old Dennis Quaid movie from when he was really, really young, like early 20s. It was called Dreamscape. It was a minor movie. Most people don't even know about it.
Sure.
But in this movie,
familiar.
You may have seen it. It's probably on Netflix and things like
Sure.
that. But it's the story of a kid who gets recruited by the CIA to basically invade other people's dreams, particularly the dreams of enemies and of friends too.
Sure.
And the particular storyline is that he's part of a crew, a small crew of young guys who can all do this jumping into other people's dreams routine.
Sure.
And they can actively participate in the dreams, and they can do Matrix type stuff in the dreams. They can be Superman in their dreams. They can turn their features into something else. They can do all of this kind of crazy stuff. And the storyline is that the president of the United States, who was played by, I think, Brian Keith, was being attacked essentially by one of their own, another one of these guys who was also a CIA spook, so to speak, who was out of line. Let's put it that way. He was working for, I don't know, like a private entity or something like that. Yeah. While he was simultaneously working for the CIA. And so it was Dennis Quaid's job to basically take this guy on in the dream. And the two of them are having this Matrix type fight within the dream. So it's like 20 years predating the Matrix, but.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really cool.
That
movie.
stuff is pretty wild, and it goes kind of like, and really, when you think about it, there are no boundaries. When you start getting into it, there's no boundaries. And when we think about the vastness of the universe and just it's completely mind blowing. It's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know. And then I'm like, where's the button? Can we just push it again? What does this do? Boop. It's like, ooh, shut it off. Stop. It's like, slow down. But yeah, I don't know. But the thing that I've found is, and I know there's a lot of people that are probably out there that be like, oh, that sounds so cool. And, the thing that I would share is, for me personally, was, number one, did it start with the interest? Absolutely 100%. But number two is going into it with pure interest or a pure intent. It wasn't about, I wasn't doing it nor have I ever done it to try to go out and cause harm or to be mean, or I always do it out of pure intent, right? Mm-hmm. And to be loving and supporting and whatever that is. And so, I think that's important as well, but of course, we understand that people can come at it from the other aspect.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right.
But of course, we don't dwell on that, but just to be aware of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, any tool can be reversed.
Reversed.
It can be turned. A tool can be turned into a weapon. A weapon can be turned into a tool. It can work either way.
That's right, and that's a great thing to remember.
Yeah.
But I guess that's my experience with remote viewing and astral projection. But I haven't had any experiences to date that were like, where I come out of my body and I saw myself. I will share something with you guys that I do remember. I remember it's funny that I just remember this, but there used to be a time back when I was a kid. This goes way back. And if I relaxed, I had to be really conscious about it and relaxed all my muscles to the point where I couldn't feel anything. Because typically when you're laying in bed, if you're conscious about it, you can feel the bed around you because you're laying in it.
Right.
But if you relax enough, it's almost like you can't feel the bed. You can't feel the pillow. And so I would try to get to that point, and it was almost like I was watching myself from outside of myself. So I'd picture myself on a bed. But yet I couldn't feel anything physically. And then what I would do is visualize myself floating up, and then I would see a finger come up and hit my feet, and then I would spin. And I just thought it was so interesting, and I could physically feel myself. And then of course I'd get dizzy, and then I'd be like, almost like wake up, and then I'd feel like I kind of slammed down. And I don't know, but it was funny that I just remembered that. It was something that it was so hard though, because I had to be really conscious about really relaxing myself just to a point where I couldn't feel the bed around. And maybe saying that now, maybe what I'll do is I'll go maybe do a salt tank and try that, because you really can't feel anything once your, body comes, in sync with the salt water around you. I don't know if you guys done a salt tank.
Never even
Oh, so cool. You got to try. Go find one in your area. It's the water is or body temperature. It is a high, salt content. So you float. And a lot of them have like a foam board, like to lay your head on if you want, or you can just lay your head back. But it might take a few, like, for you to completely relax, because I think just out of survival mechanism, we try to lift our head instead of just letting it go back. But you can't, and it's only about that deep. It's crazy, but
okay.
You're floating, and as far as you know, while you're laying there, it could be 50 feet deep. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're floating in outer space. It's just the craziest thing. And of course, the lights are dim. Some of them are completely black. It depends the kind that you go to. And some have music, some don't, whatever your experience. But, yeah. So I might have to go and, give it a shot and give that, see what happens. But, when I went, I swear to God, I was up on my side, and then my body, it felt like it was going all over. And you're just in this the one that I went to, I went to two of them, and the first one was like a little pod, that you crawl in. And then the other one that I went into was more like how do I want to say it? It's not a porta-john, but it was like a smaller, room. It was like, go on the porta-john. It's, that's, kind of in our area. It's kind of low grade. You just hold your nose.
No, I think you got to work on the metaphors a little bit, but.
Right. Well, you know me. I just say it like it is. It's like, no, but it was more of a room, just a bigger, it looked like a shower room, kind of tile on the bottom, and it wasn't that deep. And then but it was more wide, right? And so it was. So anyways,
I'm rambling. That, Monique, is that interesting to you? Does that take any of the fear away, or is it still like, oh no, cross in the air?
No, well, I'm joking. The saltwater tank sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Don't know what I would do in it, but I probably would want to go just for the feel of it. Mm. But I do know what you're talking about, Dean, when you're talking about getting to a state of relaxation when you're in bed and you no longer feel the bed. I've been there before.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. I've done that before.
Yeah. So you've had a milder experience than the scary one that you had, which is good.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what has kept me from really getting into a really good meditation practice. I can't even tell you guys how that literally scared the. Mm-hmm. Do you know how frightened you have to be to take off from work for a week?
For a week,
I can imagine.
Yes.
I can only imagine.
I was terrified, like somebody was going to kill me if I left my house or something. That's not what I thought, but.
Right, but.
Well, you didn't have any prep. That's the thing. It was just taking you by surprise. Because I've had one experience in my life. It was a guided meditation, kind of similar to what you had with the YouTube, but the lead was in the room. There were 20 of us or so that she was leading through this guided meditation. And the way it went, she basically told us in advance what was going to happen and assured us we were going to be safe and nothing bad would happen to us. And she was going to lead us through this really nice meditation. We take a nice trip around the solar system and so forth. And then we did. And a lot of people had no experience at all. They didn't pick up on it. As listeners know, I'm aphantasic, which means I have trouble generating images in my mind. I did pretty well following what she was telling us to see in our minds. I was doing pretty good at seeing a lot of it. Like I couldn't see all of it. For instance, she did the thing where you have the silver rope connecting you to your body, that thing.
Oh, okay.
I could kind of imagine that there was a silver rope, but I didn't really see it really clearly. But other things I would see much more clearly. And it was fun. I mean, I remember the experience of rising up at her guidance, rising up from the surface of the earth, and then seeing in my sort of aphantastic way, sort of a semi shot of the earth, and feeling like I was really doing that. She says, okay, now we're going to head toward the sun. And it was like, oh, wow, this is really, really fun. Because I felt safe. I felt secure.
Yeah.
It was all explained to me in advance. So I wasn't being scared or shocked by any of it. And we went to the sun. We did a little trip around Venus, a little trip around Mercury, came back, did a little zoom out toward Mars. And I guess we've been doing it for a while. So she figured it was time to come home. And then she brought us home at that point. There wasn't like meeting up with some strange creatures or anything like that. It was just this very nice trip to the solar system, but it was fun. Yeah.
Very cool.
So it just depends on how it's presented, I think. Cause you basically were caught off guard. Is what that was.
Completely. But when you were talking about your experience, it reminded me that when my ex and I were in space, he spoke to me. He talked to me. But in my mind, I know it sounds crazy, but yeah.
None of this sounds crazy. Hey, listen to what he just told. Okay.
We've been crazy for a while. I mean,
we surpassed crazy about 40 minutes ago, so don't worry about that.
Oh, then I'm on the right show.
Yes,
then you're
absolutely.
on the right show, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and really, when you think about it, though, Monique, if you put it in a religious aspect, right? So, going off of what the Bible tells us or is written, we're all made in the image of God. Mm-hmm. If we have the ability, just even a minuscule ability of maybe some of that God dust, right? On us.
We do.
Why wouldn't we be able to communicate to each other without moving our lips?
Yeah.
Why not? Those guardian angels, those archangels, everything, it's like that divine knowing that, how they speak through us and people talk about having, I don't remember growing up, I don't remember any pastor or priest or anybody ever saying, that, they heard audibly outside of themselves. It's always like, God spoke to me in a dream, or God, or, I heard, I have this dream of, the calling and this, and that the same way of that divine communication, it's just like, dude, I'm picking up the phone. Here it is. I call it the free Wi-Fi that's all around us. They're just plugging in and,
right.
Yeah. So it's, I don't think it's crazy at all. I think it's crazy cool. And I think it's, I love it because it's like, what else can we do? I take I always keep in my mind, like the 6-year-old little boy with a stick down by a creek, like poking at frogs and turtles, not in a mean way. I don't want PETA to come after me. But, it's like, but what I'm saying, it's more curiosity. Yeah. It's like, what else can it do? Like, what else is there? The wonders of the world. Like, if we can do that and we're only using a minuscule part of our brains, my goodness. And we talked last time, Walt, last show, about having these flashes of where everything in the universe makes sense.
Yes, right.
In a brief explosion moment, and all of a sudden then it leaves us. Like, oh my God, like all the answers to the world are right. And it's like, whoa, where are you going? And it's like gone. And it's like everything, it's just like your eyes are open and then it's just almost too much for us. And it's like we just get a little sliver.
Yeah.
Like, did you get that? No. Okay. Bye. It's like, so, it's just, it makes me go, whoa, what else is there? Like, was that part of the Milky Way where, what was that? And how do we experience that again? Or can we consciously create and have that experience? And so like remote viewing, astral travel, it's just so fascinating to me, because if we're able to go and do these things consciously,
right,
or just all of a sudden, like like Monique, like your story about it, just, it shook you up. You had to take a week off work. It's just like out of the
preferably
blue.
we do it with deliberate intention rather than being
right.
surprised by
Yeah.
it. Like this is what I intend to do, and then I go do it. That anybody can handle that one, because now you're prepared, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big difference between that and like, hey, come over here. Oh, look at this.
Well, it's like, right.
What?
Not exactly the same experience.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think it's just, again, I guess it's just so fascinating to me that everybody's experience is different, and just the phenomena itself is just super fascinating.
Do come by on Monday, either this Monday or a following Monday, and we'll set aside time for you guys to talk with Louie and with Amy if she's there. She's been there half the time lately, so I'm not sure that she'll be there. But both of them will tell you about some pretty wild stuff. I mean, Dean's was pretty cool. They'll tell you about, meeting alien races speaking languages that they didn't even know what they were speaking. They'll tell you about some really far out stuff, and they love it. They love all that stuff, so you'll come away, I think, with at least a somewhat altered feeling about it, maybe a little bit more secure feeling than what you've had, because you've been carrying some pretty rough feeling there. I mean, you had one bad experience with nobody to talk to. That's not healthy.
No, it's not.
It's not healthy at all.
Never made me want to meditate ever again.
I don't blame you.
And you're not alone, too, knowing that you're not alone and having that experience, but saying,
It's a lot easier when you have somebody else you can talk to who's had something similar, and you can identify, oh yeah, that's similar to something that I experienced when I had my thing, and so forth. It almost creates a comfort.
Right.
When you have that kind of.
You mean I'm not crazy?
You're not crazy. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about crazy? Yesterday's show, I was telling Dan McGaina about experience I had on Wednesday. Dean, after we did our show on Tuesday, the following day I had an experience that night, and I won't repeat it because I spent quite a bit of time talking about it yesterday. Okay. But essentially, for about 2 minutes, I was experiencing what I would call insanity. Literally. Really? My brain, I was dealing with an old emotional issue that had kind of reemerged, and I was trying to work my way through it with my wife's help. And in the course of working my way through it, my mind went blank. I literally could not grasp a thought. I had like little flits of thought that were out of reach that I couldn't grasp, and I couldn't tell what they were. I could recognize that they were thought, and that was about it. And it was, I felt completely out of control. I didn't expect it was going to happen. And after the 2 minutes were over, I was glad that they were over, because I realized that's probably what it's like for someone who is truly insane. Like their mind, it's almost like the mind just kind of fell apart. It's like dissolved. Yeah. And it's a very unpleasant feeling. It's very, very scary, because you don't have at least with your visualizations that you had something to latch onto, even if it wasn't a pleasant experience. There was nothing to latch onto. It was like just, being lost in a void and not knowing how you were going to get out. That was not happy. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it was a great experience in that I released a huge amount of emotion that I've been carrying around for about 45 years. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I'll refer you to that episode, because we're kind of running out of time today anyway. But
no, that's absolutely.
But this has been great. I mean, I'm glad both of you guys agreed to come on and fill in the gap here on Friday. This is really good.
Well, and it was so exciting to meet Monique and hear her story. I think that's so awesome. Yeah. It's always fun to meet like-minded individuals. And
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you both for joining us and for filling in the gap. And of course, we'll be seeing each of you on Tuesday and Wednesday, and maybe we'll see you, Monique, on Monday if you feel like coming into that show. So,
I'm coming.
You are coming. Okay, all right. I'll let Louie and Amy know then.
And I might not be there, but I might project in. So just be looking for me. So
you'll have to tell us about it.
Monique's like, yeah, just don't show up at my place. All right.
Right.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Thank you, listeners. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.